Hi, my name is Jennifer, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd take you through my 2021 reading stats and talk a little bit about my plans for 2022. So, in terms of reading stats, I'll link my story graph down below so you can have a look if you're interested. But story graph, as the title suggests, does have some quite good graphs. So, in terms of the number of books that I read in 2021, I read a total of 193 books, which is just under 59,000 pages. So by comparison, in 2020, I read 178 books. I think I've read as much as I have in the last 2 years because of the pandemic, because of being in and out of lockdown. I'm surprised that my number of books has increased in 2021 compared to 2020, because this is the year that I've discovered BookTube, and I do watch a fair amount of BookTube, so I am surprised that the number of books I've read has gone up and not down, but then I guess I do get a lot of recommendations from BookTube, so maybe that's why. In terms of the moods of the books that I've read in 2021, obviously a lot of the books I read are mysterious, dark, reflective, emotional and tense. Very few of the books that I have read are funny, relaxing, hopeful or inspiring. That sounds about right. Okay, in terms of the pace of the books that I've read, 45% are what Storygraph deemed to be medium paced, 22% are fast paced and 33% are slow paced. So that's quite a nice mix. In terms of page number, now just over half of the books that I read are between 300 to 500 pages long, which I guess is probably like about average, isn't it? 43% are under 300 and only 5% of the books that I've read are over 500 pages long, which apparently equates to 9 books, which is not that many. Down to the genres, no surprises here. My most read genre in 2021 was mystery, followed by thriller, then literary, contemporary, historical, crime and horror. Some books, well, I think a lot of books, Storygraph categorises into more than one genre. So for example, a book might come under literary but also contemporary. And then the final graph I wanted to look at, which I think is quite interesting, is star ratings. So my average rating in 2021 was 3.25 stars. You can see from the graph here that I give out a lot of 3 stars and a lot of 4 stars, which makes sense because 3 stars means that I liked it and 4 stars means that I really liked it. I don't give out so many 1 or 2 stars, probably because I DNF an awful lot of books, and DNFs aren't included on these figures. And then 5 stars, I only gave 12 books 5 stars in 2021. 5 stars I reserve for my very favourite of the favouriteest of books. So those are my reading stats. I thought I'd just run through some of my general reading plans for 2022. I don't tend to plan my reading all that much. Haven't given myself a number goal in terms of the number of books that I want to read in 2022, because for me I just don't find that particularly helpful. What I do want to do in 2022 is almost slow down my reading a little bit and make space for some types of reading which often I feel like I don't have time for. So the first of those types of reading, if you like, is rereading. Over the last 2 months I've reread 3 books and I've really enjoyed doing that. So there are a few books that I've got here which I'm thinking I would like to reread in 2022. The first of those is George Orwell's Down and Out in Paris and London. This is a book that I read over 20 years ago. I remember really enjoying it, but I've never revisited it and I really don't remember hardly anything about it. Next up is Sarah Waters. So I love Sarah Waters. If you've seen my top books of 2021, you will see that she does feature in that list. I would like to reread all of her books, probably not all in 2022, but I think in 2022 I would like to reread Fingersmith. I might save this for autumn. And then earlier on in the year I'm thinking of rereading either The Paying Guests or The Night Watch, because those are the 2 of her books which I can remember the least about. Another book I would like to reread which I read for the first time about 3 years ago, is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So I think this is probably one of my favourite books, but because I've only read it once, I'm not sure that I can really claim that. So I would like to revisit this one in 2022. And then the final reread, I mean, there may be other rereads that I want to do throughout the year, but these are the ones that are at the forefront of my mind at the moment. So the final one is a book which I read for the first time at the end of 2020, just after it was published. And at that time, I didn't know anything about it and I absolutely loved it. And then it's a book which has had an awful lot of people read it and talk about it during 2021. But it feels like such a long time ago that I read it that I feel like I would like to revisit it in 2022. And that book is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I can just remember the feeling I had of reading this book and just being like, oh, this book is incredible. So yeah, I feel like I would like to reread it in 2022, even though it's not that long ago that I read it for the first time, but I do have a terrible memory. So given how much it's been spoken about over the last year, I would like to revisit it very soon. Okay. So the next category of books that I want to make some more time for in 2022 is reading some longer books. So some of these have been on my radar for quite a while and I've just not got to them yet for some reason. The first of these books is an absolute disgrace that I haven't read it yet. And that is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. And it's an absolute disgrace because after I read Piranesi, which we know was a year ago, I thought to myself, right, I must read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and I still haven't. So I definitely want to read that in 2022. Another book that I want to read very soon is The Sea by Iris Murdoch. So I have read one Iris Murdoch book, which was The Unicorn. I read that in 2021, really enjoyed it, and I want to read more Iris Murdoch, probably starting with her most famous novel, The Sea. Another longer book which I've wanted to read for a while is The Unconsoled by Caswell Ishiguro. I really like Ishiguro's writing, and this is a book which I did try to read a number of years ago, but for various reasons it wasn't the right time for me to read this book. This is quite a surreal, sort of dreamlike book, which I do really like, so I'm looking forward to reading that this year. And then after that, I think I've only got 2 more of Ishiguro's books to read, so I still need to read An Artist of the Floating World and The Buried Giant. Okay, some other long books that have been on my radar for a little while and I would like to read include The Luminaries by Elena Catton. This is a book that I know very little about and it does intimidate me because I think, from what I've heard, it takes quite a while for you to sort of get into it, like half the book. So yeah, but it sounds intriguing, so I'd like to give that a go. Duck's Newburyport by Lucy Ellmann is another book which I think I would like to give a go. See, I wasn't too sure about it, but Bob the Bookerer just keeps going on about it, so I am interested to see what I think of it. I feel like I might either really love it or really hate it. And then finally, for the longer books, is a book which I saw Ben from Doomantidote mention in his favourite books of the year, and that is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. So it's a book which obviously I've known about for a long time, and it's always kind of interested me but also really intimidated me, but hearing Ben talk about it makes me think actually I would like to give that a go in 2022. And then the final sort of category of books that I want to make more space for in 2022 is classics. So I don't read a lot of classics, but hearing people on BookTube talk about sort of different classics that they've enjoyed makes me want to try out a few more. So first up, and some of these I have already got out from the library, so I'm ahead of the game, is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. So I think I read Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte as a teenager. Don't remember anything about it, but I don't think I've ever read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I've heard a few people talk about this over the last year and it sounds really interesting. Another author I would like to read in 2022 is Virginia Woolf. So I picked up Mrs. Dalloway from the library. Now, I did already start reading this a few days ago and I have already DNF'd it because I just couldn't get into it. But I'm thinking I might try Orlando instead, possibly at some point this year. Some other classics I would like to read in 2022 are Villette by Charlotte Bronte, because I've only read Jane Eyre by her and I'd like to try some more. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. I've never read any Thomas Hardy, and I know Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot and Jen the Librarian really like Thomas Hardy, so I need to try some of his work. I also want to read Dracula by Bram Stoker, which I've never read before. I think I might save this one for October. I want to read Emma by Jane Austen. I've tried Jane Austen a number of times, never managed to get through any of her books, but I'd like to give Emma another go. I also want to read Morris by E.M. Forster. I've never read any E.M. Forster before. And then finally, a Russian classic, which does intimidate me quite a lot actually, is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, so I might give this a go during 2022 as well. In terms of other reading plans for 2022, last year I really enjoyed following the Women's Prize for Fiction and the Booker Prize, so I'll probably look to do the same again this year. And finally, Jen the Librarian is going to be doing a read-along during 2022 of LGBTQ books in translation, which sounds right up my street, so I'm hopefully going to participate in that. I'll link below to Jen's announcement video so you can find out a bit more and join in if you would like to. So those are my sort of like general reading plans for the year. I don't tend to plan my reading too much, but just those are some of the things that I want to try to make space for in my reading during 2022. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all doing well, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.